4 years ago, this guy Newtiteuf, this guy right here, did an interview with Masuda and Ohmori, and one of the questions he asked them was about the existence of the shiny lock, and, well, why does it exist? Now, this interview in question, while it is the only footage I could find on the internet, aside from conspiracy theories otherwise, is good information to reference, but only if you can understand Japanese and French. But a Mapizzafood? Yeah, I'm not trying to win an award for pronouncing usernames. Well, he made a video in response to said interview. So I'll link both videos in this video's description. And let's see what Masuda has to say about the shiny lock. What makes you decide whether a Pokemon endgame will be able to become shiny? Why the decision to prevent players from getting certain Pokemon in their shiny form? It's all about balance, whatever the fuck that means. Legendaries are already extremely rare Pokemon. To then make it shiny in addition to what would make it even more special than special, I think there needs to be a certain balance. And concerning Pokemon which can or can't be shiny, it's also about maintaining balance to deliver rare Pokemon. After all, if everyone had shinies, shiny Pokemon would become the standard form. There's obviously so many logical fallacies to be found in this, but isn't this the same guy that pulled the same balance narrative to explain the dex cut in Sword and Shield? But he's also the same guy I did a video on that used similar excuses for why you can't have any mature post-game content in your Pokemon games, while admitting that he disregards the feedback of the fans. Hold the fuck up. This is also the exact same guy that introduced the Masuda method in 4th gen to promote online connectivity introduced in that same generation that allows you to get shiny Pokemon easier by breeding Pokemon from different regions. So what the fuck? Before I even get into the free real estate that Junichi Masuda's logical fallacy of why the shiny lock even exists is concerning the upcoming shiny Zamazenta and shiny Zacian distribution, well, there's honestly not much to be said about it. It's nothing new. So far, the Korean master race will be able to get it, but it's technically locked behind a paywall. Have you heard that one before? Because all they have to do is pre-order Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, or the double pack that contains both games. Why the fuck would you ever do something like the latter? Oh, that's right. Exclusive Pokemon in 2021 is not surprisingly still a thing. Not to mention the classic con Game Freak is still running as some kind of a difference between the same games they're selling you in a generation of Pokemon games. Also, has anyone noticed, at least according to this image, that it looks like shiny Zacian and shiny Zamazenta are going to be square shinies? But hey, not to fear, depending on where you live and your retailer, you'll get shit like this if you pre-order Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and I can imagine the double pack as well. All you have to do is reside in certain places like the UK to seize such a privilege. And don't forget the Manaphy egg. There's also other pre-order bonuses that are so far exclusive to a certain region, like what the UK's Amazon is offering them if they pre-order Pokemon Legends Arceus. This shit is amazing to me, not to mention laughable, because Pokemon games have been a worldwide release since 6th gen, yet here they are backpedaling with pre-order bonuses. As a Pokemon fan, all I have to say is good luck and keep hope alive. Those are once again the strange times you're living in as a Pokemon fan. You're either lucky or you're not, much like with past distributions. Let's talk about the bigger issue here. According to Masuda's brilliantly flawed logic, not to mention philosophy, the shiny lock serves 3 purposes, and of course none of them are good. One thing the shiny lock does is ruin the gameplay experience and the point of RNG. This is the same guy that disregards feedback from fans, so it's no surprise, but that doesn't make it right when he calls himself trying to dictate your experience. While he's sitting up here worrying about some balance and how special a legendary Pokemon is to each game, he fails to realize that most people don't share that same sentiment, so why neuter whether or not they want to sit up there and waste their lives on soft resetting for an alt palette of a Pokemon. Speaking of alternate palettes for each and every Pokemon, another thing a shiny lock does is, quite frankly, defeats the purpose of an alternate palette of each and every Pokemon. Then again, so far for 10 years now, we still aren't able to legally get this guy, so there's that. As you can see from this upcoming Shiny Zacian and Shiny Zamazenta event, it even serves the purpose of corrupting promotional events with artificial value and exclusivity. Even on Pokemon's worst days, it will survive off of branding alone. Is millions of dollars off of selling merch and other pieces of the franchise not enough? Also consider this, Game Freak, especially you, Masuda. You put so much effort into flipping coins on what Pokemon is worthy of being shiny or not, yet you can't even use shiny locks properly, as referenced by the shiny Minccino that can make its appearance when you're first booting up the damn game before even receiving your first Pokemon. I will play the devil's advocate a bit here for just one reason, and that is to explain that one reason a shiny lock should exist, not to mention be used properly. It's because of shit like this. You know, all of those Pokemon in certain Pokemon games that you can encounter, but you're not given any Pokeballs to be able to catch them with? That, ladies and gents, is the only time a shiny lock should be utilized. So I guess it isn't all bad after all. It's just that, not surprisingly, such a destructive thing, otherwise not to mention illogical, isn't used properly. Some examples include the Starly that attack you at Lake Verity in Diamond and Pearl, along with the Poochyena in Ruby and Sapphire, as well as the Zigzagoon in Emerald that attack Professor Birch. And of course, this is yet another example of a shiny lock not being used properly. Beyond that, they should not dictate, let alone ruin someone's experience with this balanced nonsense Masuda is talking about, along with this cop-out of shiny Pokemon being the norm if everyone was allowed to soft reset for a shiny legendary Pokemon. I buy a product for me to dictate my experience with, not you, Masuda. Also, let me turn this logic on its head even more. Let's talk about shiny Pokemon being the norm and an imbalance as a result. Well, help me to understand why you natively shiny lock Pokemon like Reshiram and Zekrom here, only for them to be available in subsequent Pokemon games. It doesn't look like you consistently give a shit about the overwhelming outbreak of shiny Pokemon when you pull stunts like that. I'll do you one better, because you all have even done the opposite. Deoxys is one example, because barring obscure events, of course, like the Aurora ticket back in 3rd gen, not only has it been demoted from mythical status, you're able to soft reset for a shiny Deoxys outside of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. The same goes for Rayquaza, Groudon, and Kyogre. While they're much more readily available than Deoxys is, how come you didn't give a shit about a shiny lock and how overwhelming shiny Pokemon were before Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire concerning these Pokemon? Again, legendary Pokemon native to a Pokemon game are arbitrarily shiny locked, and afterwards you don't give a shit. But again, I guess we should be grateful, because Keldeo has once again become another example of a Pokemon being demoted from mythical status behind paid content, i.e. the Crown Tundra DLC for Sword and Shield, yet again you can't soft reset for it to be shiny. But even then, it gets better treatment than Victini and Meloetta do. I just don't get it. And once again, I mean that with the utmost sarcasm. Nothing adds up here. Once again, these guys prove that they're great at dodging those hot seat questions, along with being tone deaf with such automated responses. Sure, you're the director over the games, but this isn't a product you're making for yourself, Masuda. I don't think you need to even do a Google search on why people hate shiny locks so much. The logic behind them alone is enough conniving bullshit to stomach, but that's the reality. He's spewing this balanced bullshit that failed him miserably to try and justify why the Dex cut is now a thing in Pokemon, and here he is again with no logic whatsoever behind why shiny locks exist when Game Freak could be putting them to one use that's actually reasonable. Then again, Game Freak loves to be hush hush when it comes to any actual explanation and focus focus on shiny Pokemon, you have to get a damn interview just to understand the nuts and bolts in this guy's head behind why shiny locks even exist. And big surprise, it makes no logical fucking sense. But then include features like the Ultra Wormhole, Dynamax Adventures, which by the way, outside of an event in 2018, marks the first time you can legally get a shiny Zygarde, and no need to tell me about all the fun you guys had obtaining that sucker in Dynamax Adventures. And let's not forget those mysterious, i.e. Hoopa rings that you can find the same previously shiny locked legendary Pokemon in, like Zekrom and Reshiram, only for you to be given the opportunity to obtain a shiny version of Pokemon like those. Where's the consistency in any of this? I guess you can add Manaphy to that list. I mean, after all, with the whole Manaphy egg situation, that's as limited as what, the first Pokemon Ranger game, which isn't even a main series Pokemon game, but was the only way for you to get a Manaphy egg, only for you to deal with all of those shenanigans behind getting a shiny Manaphy. But I think all of this can be squashed by one simple reality behind Game Freak that explains why people like Masuda think the way they do. Because Game Freak and people like Masuda only want to control your gameplay experience. They're telling you how to play your games, much like they're telling you which Pokemon to cope with after Sword and Shield. But hey, you can throw them in Pokemon Home and let them collect dust there. They're not really gone. We just don't want you playing with them in these games, so we'll make future Pokemon games for you to inevitably buy, and you can play with them in there. So get the fuck over it. The same applies to shiny locks. Once again, there's no logic. All I say is that they use them properly for the one reason they should be used. But taking a dump on someone's gameplay experience because you don't want to acknowledge shiny hunters and the autonomy children have, because otherwise they're using children as some kind of dumbass crutch, behind making their decision with what they want to value concerning mythical Pokemon, legendary Pokemon, or whatever, and what they want to soft reset for concerning a shiny Pokemon, isn't something you can try to justify with such a conniving philosophy, whether or not someone does an interview to pluck such nonsense from you. We get it, Masuda and Game Freak has creative control, the lack thereof a lot of times in my humble opinion, but at the end of the day, the gameplay experience, much like the logic behind RNG, isn't something you should try to dictate. That's why we're the ones buying the products and you're the ones charged with making an appealing product for us. So there you go, ladies and gents. This is why shiny locks exist according to Masuda, and this is exactly why I love poking fun at all of the senseless shit on the internet just to make sense out of it. Game Freak and people like Masuda have trouble differentiating between dictating a product and the consumers they're making the product for. I'm not gonna go out on a limb and say this is Asian culture, but Masuda for sure just seems like a woefully narcissistic moron with a franchise that effortlessly commands revenue like no other.